Hello. Welcome back to the C-Suite Mama podcast. I'm your host, Shay Campbell. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 14, and I'm delighted to have our wonderful guest here today, Mrs. Shannon Bryant. Shannon is the Chief Diversity Officer at Kaleida Health, and I will let Shannon tell you about what all that means and what she does at Kaleida. So let's jump right into this conversation. Welcome, Shannon. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Shay. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to be here.
My pleasure. Long time coming. So let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your career path. I know you didn't start out necessarily in the diversity space. So how did you make it to the C-suite? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I really think of my career path as all around health equity. So I started out actually at Evergreen Health Services. And in that position, I did lots of roles there. So Evergreen Health is a nonprofit. They do have primary health care, but I was a big part of the care coordination department. So I was the director of clinical care coordination, and I started with my license in mental health counseling. So I used to supervise mental health clinicians, social workers, as well as licensed mental health counselors. And our teams would go out and they'd help people with social determinants of health. So things around coordinating transportation, housing, nutrition, primary care was a big part of that, and also mental health. So anyone on the caseloads that I supervise typically would have chronic health conditions along with a severe and persistent mental health illness. So that was really the start for me, I would say, of my journey and the healthcare space, and especially as it relates to health equity. A lot of the patients that we served were LGBTQ plus, they were HIV positive, they were substance use, they were Black and Brown, new Americans, and refugees. So it was a very diverse population who received care from us there at Evergreen. So I was there about 7.5 years, and then transitioned into more of a leadership position as it relates to the HR side of things. So I moved to person centered services, working for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I was the director of learning development and diversity there. And it was a startup company. So I had a chance to really create a lot of things and teach care coordinators there about social determinants and working within different diverse populations, including those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then from there, I really moved to Kaleida Health in the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer role. So that's kind of the start of things. I've been at Kaleida for 3.5 years in this position. It's an inaugural position. And a lot of my job had to be created because they didn't really know what they didn't know, right? They had not had the position beforehand. So what I've done is really worked with them on creating strategic plans, not just for our workforce side as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but really for the patient side of things. So our mission is to advance the health of our community. And if we think about that, who do we serve? Every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of our health equity efforts have really taken off in the last several years, and that's mission critical work that really they were probably already doing in some respects, but now they're doing it with a strategic focus, with data to back it up, and ways to measure their outcomes and goals. And that has really been an exciting journey. So thank you.
Wonderful. That is exciting to hear. Obviously, having worked in the DEI space and now focus on health equity. So that is very excited to hear that one of our largest hospital systems is taking that focus with you at the helm. Very awesome. So while you're balancing this very high level career, you also a wife and a mom. Tell us how you're managing those demands.
My gosh, so many ways. I mean, I think a calendar is key. I've listened to most of the C Suite Mama podcast before me, and I feel like everyone says that. But it's true. You do. You have to have a calendar, lots of communicating necessary. So, whether it's be, communicating with my husband or our support network, family, friends, people who are going to be supporting us. But, my kids are 8 and 6, or actually, my daughter just turned 7. Boy. So 7 and 8. And, they're starting to get into more sports and things like that. So I have like a million parent groups that I'm a part of also. So communication and coordination of the calendar are key. And then I try to ask, like, what does support look like? I ask that to my children. So for them, they'll say things like being home in the evening. I also work out a lot. Shout out to Next Level Boot Camp, Jean. But I work out a lot. And part of that is, I'll ask my kids, if I'm going to the gym, would you want me to be home more in the morning or in the evening? Like, do you want me to take you to school, pick you up? What are you thinking? Because I have to fit the workout in. And
Hmm.
they unanimously decided, the both of them, that they would rather me be home at night. So that's what support looks like. So that means I have to get up at 5 a.m. to get to my gym class at 6 a.m. because I want to be able to be home at night. So it's really a lot of communication around specific things, like what works for you, what would be the best. They like to have family days, so we do that mostly on the weekend. Today, support looked like jumping in the sprinkler with them. So I had to do that when I got home, which was embarrassing and also time consuming because I knew I had to blow dry my hair for this podcast taping. But those are the things that, I have to juggle and I have to manage. Things that work, it's about being visible and vocal in a C-level position for the largest employer in Western New York. I have lots of times that I just have to be visible for things. So I understand those commitments. And my job is really a lot of removing barriers and being available to problem solve, whether it's in a conference room at a moment's notice or a phone call late at night or on the weekends. Those things have to happen. And I just try to communicate with my family so that they know that that's coming, that's happening.
Yeah. I love the concept of asking your children what support looks like. I think that is such an awesome gem because I think it eliminates some of the guilt, right? If you know you've had the conversation, you can give them what they need, but also find ways to prioritize your own well-being. That's beautiful. That's why I love these conversations because I always take something. So I'll be having that conversation soon. Thank you very much.
I love it.
That's very good. You spoke about support and what support looks like for your children. What do your support systems look like for you in your career journey?
Yeah, lots of different support systems. I would say, honestly, the most notable one is my husband. So, shout out to Ricky. Like, people will talk and they'll look at me and they'll be like, oh my God, you can do all these things. You're so amazing. And I just have to say, I am not able to do a thing if it were not for the support of my husband. Like, he is my rock, he's my best friend. And we've been married for 14 years, which we were kids
Wow.
when we got married, doing crazy stuff like getting married. I was like 22. I'm like, oh my God, if my kids were like, I'm going to get married at 22, I would be like, please don't. Um, but it worked out really good
It did.
for us. And it's just so nice to have like a partner who he understands me. I can talk to him about so many things. And I mean, Ricky, he's so funny too, which like keeps things lighthearted and it keeps it going where I can be a lot more serious. But yeah, I mean, whether it's picking up the kids at a moment's notice or being flexible, like he's able to flex that way. And I think that like is the most supportive thing. I would also have to mention like my mother, which you also know her, but she is just like my biggest cheerleader and so supportive. I mean, my kids have like a second home at her house. She has like
Yeah.
beds for them and all this stuff. And she's just so good about anticipating needs that I can't, like, that at the end of the day is just like such a big deal. Like, it'll be small
Mhm.
things like Christmas is coming up. I'm a big decorator in my house, like that's my thing. But because of work and kids and everything else, I don't get to shop as much as I would normally like to.
Yeah.
So she'll be at the stores FaceTiming me, hey, look at this wreath. Okay, do you like these candles? And she'll just get it all, bring it to me. And even if I mean, she's bringing me options. Like, she'll buy 5 wreaths and say, which one? And I'm like, yes. So
That
that's
is
what
awesome.
support looks like.
That is beautiful. I love your mom. She's such an angel. That's
Yes.
awesome. So you have all of these wonderful things happening, a beautiful marriage, awesome supports, a great career. Talk about, I know things haven't just been smooth all the time. What have been some of the challenges that you face in your career and how have you worked to overcome some of that?
Yeah, definitely not all roses for sure. I think the biggest challenge for me, and everybody will have like their own personal answer to this, but I'm a perfectionist, like just born that way. Don't know why, but it's just been a part of my DNA since I was little. And I think, going into leadership and going into, I mean, I'm in the business of people, right? Like supporting caregivers essentially. Like, my only job is to make sure that they can be more efficient to care for all of us here in Western New York. And when you're supporting people and working with people, it's just you have to be more flexible. And I think starting out in my career, I was very perfectionistic. Like,
Mm,
these are the way things need to be. And, it became unsustainable, truthfully. I can
yeah.
remember the first team that I ever supervised. God bless them, because I was not an easy supervisor. I just was very rigid. I wish I could like see them all now and be like, guys, I promise you, I'm a great supervisor now. But that's because I had to grow into my leadership. It
Yeah.
wasn't, I don't think you take just a perfect person and put them in a leadership position. I had to really realize how to work with people, how to motivate people. And as a licensed mental health counselor, a lot of those skills helped me
Hmm.
to do that. But I think, the challenges have been around how to let go of that perfectionism and to keep doing that. And if I'm being honest, I think motherhood has really helped with that. Like, it really has just been the missing link. I mean, the connector for me about perfection and how I should let that go. And it really started from a place of, I have to think about, like, talk to myself how I would talk to my children, right?
Hmm.
I would not want them chasing perfection. I would want them shining or making mistakes or, doing what they need to do. But I have to live that. I have to
Yeah.
live that. And so I'm constantly working on, not letting perfectionism take over. And the thing about it too is the world, they reward you when you're perfectionistic. I
They
mean,
do.
I was always A1 student, best at everything, perfect, perfect. And it's like I was getting so much value from that that I think as a young adult, I kind of lost myself in that and
Mm,
became, I'm just like perfect Shannon. But the truth is, I'm imperfect, right? And thank God. Like,
yeah.
I mean, now I'm at a place where the older I get, the more imperfect I am. And I'm just so happy with it. I'm just like, well, that didn't work out, or like, we're on to the next thing. And I can give myself that grace. But early on in my career, I was very hard on myself and just probably really hard to work with because I wanted
Mm,
everything to be so perfect. But that's not how the world works. And I'm just really grateful to have, the experiences that I have had, but also to be a mom and to show my children those imperfections is so important to me, and I do it often now.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you spoke about how you were as a younger manager or leader,
Yeah.
reflecting back to your earlier career days, and even before you were in a leadership position, as you kind of started to climb. What kind of advice would you offer to mothers specifically who are aiming for leadership positions?
Yeah, I mean, lose the perfection. It's not
Hmm.
necessary. That's a big one, and it's impossible, right? But the other thing I would say is like now that I'm a recovering perfectionist, I would say. Now that
Love
I'm
that.
in recovery, right, right. Now that I'm not as perfectionistic, I would say you also just have to remember, like, I'll remind myself that I brought life into the world. I can do this. If I need to have
Yeah.
a hard conversation, if I have to say something difficult, or if I have to make a difficult choice and there are consequences, I don't really hesitate on that. That's not hard for me because I'm like, I got this. I literally raise two humans
Yeah.
every day, and I'm guiding them every day. And, with God at the helm, me and my husband, we're somehow doing that. I can deal with this work stuff. I can do this.
Yeah. That's
So
good.
I would tell
Love that.
moms that you got this.
I
I
love
mean, I
that.
tell
I love
myself
that.
that in the gym too. I'm like, come on, you got this.
A little self talk. I need that kind of motivation for the gym talk too. Yes,
Yes.
that's so good. So, I have to add a little DEI question in here for us. In what ways do you think workplaces can better support mothers specifically, and especially mothers of color, in achieving their career goals?
Absolutely. So at Kaleida Health, we actually have an employee resource group dedicated to working moms and caregivers. It's really working parents and caregivers.
Okay.
But right now, I think we only have one male member. We're trying to get more, but
Okay.
it's pretty focused on working moms and caregivers. We that group, they work on a lot of things as it relates to like lactation spaces, making sure they're all up to date, and also welcoming. Like, if you have that time and that space, you might want a little plant or something inspirational. So they do little things to make sure it's welcoming, but also helping with the leave roadmap. So at Kaleida Health, when you go out, we have amazing benefits, but sometimes people don't know how to use them or they don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
access them. And if you think about it, some people might be not only working parents, but caregivers, right? Whether it be a loved one, a spouse, for their own children. And so we try to work with HR to make the road leave map a lot simpler. Our
That's
road
awesome.
leave map is like 13 pages, and it's so confusing. And also the moms and the parents, they don't have access to it once they're on leave because
Oh,
it's all on our intranet. So what we've done is created an outside document so that people can actually start using it when they need it. But I think a next step of that we still have to do is really training our managers on the process so that the managers could help. Because when I have someone who goes out on a leave, I want to be able to take on what I can to, whether it's
mm-hmm.
pushing a paper or, getting some things done on the background to help that person. If they've made me privy to it, I want to be able to support that opportunity for them to use their leave. It's their benefits. So those
Yes.
are big things. But other things that I think specifically Black women need, especially in the workplace, sponsorship and mentorship. So, mentorship being kind of that side by side, walking with you, going through things. Sponsorship really being the stuff that you do when you're not in rooms and in places, but people are bringing your name up and saying, hey, I think such and such would be great for this opportunity. You might want to consider them, that sort of thing, really having that sponsorship piece. And then the last thing I would say, which I am so privileged to be able to do, so I support a team, lots of women of color on my team, not all, but lots. And feedback, that's a big one. I mean, for Black and Brown women, a lot of times they don't get feedback about their performance when they're at work. And I don't know if that's just uncomfortability. I don't know if, people are just looking at them as invisible in the workplace, but the people on my team who report to me, they have thorough feedback, and
That's so
and
good.
they sometimes laugh at it, but it's like paragraphs of feedback. And I'm like, yes. And I do real time coaching and feedback for them, but also in their annual performance reviews, I make sure all of that is very documented. Everything that they do well, I brag about and talk about and write about, and everything that they need to work on, I do the same. And I
Yeah.
think I've built a lot of trust with the people on my team. So, like, I'm able to do that. And I
Hmm.
also tell them that these are things that are workable. You're going to be in a different, we're going to work on something different next time we talk about this.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on these things now. And then I might set them up with some courses, or, take them to a conference, or have them lead a meeting, do something that they need the work on. And then
Hmm.
we follow up on it in a couple months, and we check in during one-on-ones, and they're like, okay, I'm doing it. And I tell them, you made progress. Maybe it didn't go the way we exactly planned it, but
Hmm.
look how much progress you've made. And that is what's missing. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of feedback and support and coaching, and really knowing I got you, regardless of, how this ends up, what we're working on, I got you. And sometimes it's getting you to another place, another
Yeah.
job. I've done that before too. Like, you know what? This is not going to work. You can't do
Coaching
this.
on.
Right. Let's do something else. And I will give you a recommendation, but not for things that require these tasks.
Yeah, yeah. Feedback is huge, and I think it's so undervalued in terms
Yeah.
of creating a more supportive work environment. It's something we don't talk about a whole lot. So that is awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I know you spoke about some challenges that you've had to overcome as it relates to being a recovering perfectionist. Can you
Yeah.
talk specifically about any professional setbacks that you've had, and how it's helped you grow?
Boy, I mean, the perfectionism was a big one, Shay, when it comes to professional setbacks. And I'll tell you the way it helped me grow. So I remember when I had went out on maternity leave with my daughter. So I had already had Solomon, my son, and one thing I used to do with my team is I would basically do all of their tracking for the month, and then I would have them do their own tracking, and we would have a meeting, but I would have really already done all of the work for them. But I would let them, tell me what they had done, and then I would correct it all. And it was, I mean, I was staying up till like 3 o'clock in the morning because I
Oh my
had 8 staff members at that time, and they each had 250 clients. So that means I was doing work for 8 times 250 people.
oh my gosh.
And I was staying up super late, stressing out, doing all these things. And so I had taught them the tracking. I should have just let them trust that they could do the tracking, right? But no, had to do it too. Had to go back and do it myself. And so when I went out on maternity leave and then I came back, I was like, okay, guys, I'm back, da da da, so happy. And I found out they were doing the tracking and it was absolutely fine. I had been
Yeah.
killing myself doing 8 times 250 really for no reason.
Hmm.
These are capable adults. They can do the work. Just let it play out.
Yeah.
But those, and when we talk about like setbacks, think about how much time I lost doing that.
Yeah.
And it was just,
Sleep, time with husband, whatever you wanted to do.
right. So I learned, I was like, okay, I will not ever do that again. Like, it's just not required.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of support that they needed. But
Yeah.
again, one of those early lessons that I had to learn.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's face forward a little bit. Tell us a little bit about some of your career aspirations or personal life. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I like what I'm doing now. I really see myself. My favorite part of my job is coaching and mentoring women specifically. So I
Me
see
too.
myself doing that with executive leaders. And I think we've talked about this before, but there's just such a need for that executive leadership coaching and support to take place. I really see myself doing that for people. I want to help people personally, especially women, personally and professionally. And one of the things that I think I've learned on my journey is knowing your intention and being very clear about that. And that's something that I would work with, women, executive women around, is really being clear on intentions, because sometimes we're in these leadership roles, whether it be, at an organization or, your own business. And what you find is you can't get off of the race. You don't know why you're doing it anymore. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really serving me, or I want more, or I want different. But if you're clear about your intentions, then you can be clear about your next move. And sometimes the next move is to stay where you're at, right? Because you're like, well, financially, this makes sense.
Yep.
That's okay. That's a good reason to stay. It may be, right? We can't
Right.
pretend like that doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
But also, it might be, my intention is to relax more. Well, then how are you doing that? And really getting people to a place of understanding how they can start to do it in small ways. And then if there is a need, in big ways. But sometimes doing those small things make a big difference. So,
Yeah, I love what you said about leading with intention and leading with purpose. And I think it's really important for the conversations that we have on the C Suite Mama to be framed in
yeah,
that, because I never want it to be lost. Like we're just striving for the top, we're striving for C Suite. Like it's not about that. Well, we are
no,
really about, you get to the top by seeking after purpose and doing the things that you're passionate about and the things that you're skilled at. So I love that
absolutely.
you frame this in intention. It's so good. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
we're aligned, Shay.
We are always all the things. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we are going to quickly jump into our lightning round, which is just going to be a series of some fun questions. Just answer whatever comes to your mind first. You don't have to think about it too much.
Okay.
All right. Morning routine. How do you start your day?
Lately, it's been the gym. So, as I spoke about earlier, my kids would rather me be home at night. So, I usually am up at 5 to get ready to go to the gym. And then, if I'm not doing that, I'm getting up and just getting them ready. I don't, if I could, I'd sleep in. Truthfully, I
Yeah.
don't really like the morning at all. Even if I'm awake, I would rather just be like in my bed,
Me
but
too.
I don't usually have that luxury. So,
Same. What's one tip that keeps you productive?
one tip that keeps me productive. I don't know. My post-it notes, maybe.
Okay, that works. Whatever works for you.
Notes. I have post-it notes all on my desk, and then I keep notes in my phone, like for if I don't have access to my post-it notes.
Love it. Who do you look up to?
Ooh, so many people. I look up to my mother first and foremost. She's just an amazing woman. And, I look up to Oprah Winfrey. I love her, absolutely everything about her.
Me.
Yes. I look up to Dr. Brene Brown. I do a lot of following her thought leadership, as well as Aiko Bethia, who she was my executive coach all last year and a little bit into this year too. We worked together. So I would say those are kind of the people that I look up to. Some are more formal mentors, and
Mhm.
others like from a distance, like Oprah, right? I haven't
Yeah.
met her yet, but I'm really hoping.
Yes. Me too, girl. I love her.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yes. How do you unwind after a long day?
Usually playing with the kids. Like I was saying, today when I got home, I had a long day, busy day at work, and they were like, "Mom, you gotta play. You gotta get in the sprinkler." I was like, "It
Oh.
is hot." They were like, "Get in." I was like, "Okay." I got in the sprinkler. So, I think play has to be a part of my day in some way, not just because I have kids, but my husband and I laugh a lot. So, we like to unwind, whether it be with jokes or, we play games. We like to have dance parties in the house, that sort of thing.
I love it. I love it. Good segue for the next question. What's your favorite date night activity?
Ooh. My God, I don't even know.
No? Okay.
So we like to go to dinner a lot. But we're both really social people. So, like, being out, just like walking around and running into people, or kind of being a little wanderlust with a little bit of a plan. It usually involves good food, but and
Yeah.
good music. But yeah, that's what we kind of like to just have dinner and go about.
Love it. Guilty pleasure.
So one guilty pleasure, movie butter popcorn. So, like, if you know me, I am constantly, at least, like, I'm trying to cut down. Like, once a week, we'll go get popcorn from the movies and just bring it home just to eat
I
it.
love
Um,
it.
that is something my mom did with me when I was little, so it's something like I do now, but not the best habit. And then I would say probably sending Instagram memes to my husband or my best girlfriend makes me
I
feel
love that.
good.
That's
Yeah,
like a couple's thing, right? You just
yeah,
send Instagram and TikToks all
like
day. I
10
love
of
that.
them in a row. I'm like, did you see him, Ma? He's like, what are
I
you
know I
doing?
usually have to go and get caught up. That I'm the one that has to go back and catch up on the scroll.
Yeah.
So tell me, just a couple more questions. The best piece of career advice you received.
Mm. So actually, I got some good career advice today, but it leads into one that I like. So this one, I can't remember who said it, but I'm going to read it. It says, "Leadership is about managing energy first in yourself and then in others." I
Mm,
love that quote. And I, again, don't remember who said that, but I just think we have to be so responsible with the energy that we bring into a room.
yes.
And I feel like any room I walk in, I'm going to change the energy. I don't, it doesn't matter to me that people are grumpy. I'm like, if I'm having a good day, if I got a good
Yes.
hair day, it's about to be a good day. Like, we're going to have a
Yes.
good meeting. Let's go. It's Monday,
I love it.
But what I heard today, and I have to credit this one. So this was from Leah Holton Pope, our councilwoman, and she's also Ellicott District. So today she had come to Kaleida Health for a Juneteenth celebration that we had. And she said that her father told her to not be a thermostat in the room. No, not to be a thermometer in the room because the
Hmm.
thermometer gives the temperature, but to be the thermostat because the thermostat changes the
Yes.
temperature.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
just
Yes.
goes into what I'm talking about here with,
Yeah.
like, you change the energy of the room. We have that power, and we walk, when I walk into a room, I think I'm walking with all my ancestors. I'm like,
That's
I don't really
beautiful.
walk alone, even though I might be the only in the room, right?
Hmm.
I'm not alone. So I don't need to walk in like I'm lonely, like I'm down. No, I walk in and we're about to switch it up. It's going
Yes.
down.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. One final thing. You already kind of answered it, but so you can give me a different one. What's one item you always have on your desk?
I did say Post-its,
Yeah.
but lotion too. I always have the eucalyptus lotion from
The
Bath and
calming?
Body.
Yes.
Yes, and so I feel like my hands get so dry at work from, like, using the bathroom, washing my hands so much, and I'm in a
Hmm.
hospital, so I'm constantly sanitizing. But even when I didn't work in a hospital, I always have lotion on my desk to make sure my hands are moisturized.
I love that because we cannot be ashy out here. That's
No.
so great. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. This is so good. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I was going to transition into our next segment, which is leadership lessons, but I feel like you gave us so many powerful quotes. I'm just going to let that
Okay.
sit there, that we are going to be thermostats and not thermometers. So that is
Right.
our leadership lesson for the day. I love that
Right.
so much.
Yeah, so we'll have to get Councilwoman Leah Halton Pope on here. She,
Yes, yes, yes. You know,
that's
she's on
her
my
quote.
list
That's
for
her
sure.
quote. I loved it
Yes,
today.
it's
I
so
was so
good.
grateful.
Thank you. I also like to share a resource of the week that sometimes I come up with, and sometimes my guests will share resources. So, why don't you give us the resource of the week?
Yes, I have one. Before we share it, I just wanted to thank you and, thank you for your leadership within Buffalo, within the
Oh,
community. I've been watching everything
thank
that
you.
you're doing. I'm proud of you. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
that you got this podcast going. You're lifting up Black voices, Black women. I just love it. I'm
Thank you
I'm
so much.
grateful to be in connection and in relationship with you. So
Likewise.
thanks for
Likewise.
having me on. Okay, so I have a book for everyone. I'm in the middle of reading it. Actually, I do audio, so I'm listening to it. It's called
Okay.
Unlearning Silence: How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash talent, and live more fully. And that is by Elaine Lynn Herring. Very good.
Okay. Awesome. I will make sure I link that in the show notes so folks can check it out on however you listen to your audiobooks, or we'll also do an Amazon link. I'm sure we can find it there for the hard copy if that's your
Absolutely.
thing. Tell us, how can folks connect with you if they just want to learn more about the work that you're doing or connect with you professionally?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be a great place. I know I mentioned I send memes on Instagram and stuff, but that is not really the place to connect with me. I would say LinkedIn would be the best spot. Shannon Bryant, and it's LMHC. That stands for Licensed Mental Health Counselor. So that's on LinkedIn. And then always my Kaleida Health address is available. It's SD as in Diane Bryant at KaleidaHealth.org.
Wonderful. This was so good. Thank you so much, Shannon. It was awesome having you here. Thank you so much to our listeners. This is a wrap for episode 14. Please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, shoot us an email, all the things. We'll make sure we link Shannon's information in the show notes, as well as the link for the resource of the week. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. All right, girl.